could be interesting.
Yeah, you should hit
So
record every time you see me. Ain't no, ain't no telling what's gonna happen.
I think that's a soundbite right there. Just hit record every time you see me.
Every time you
Okay.
see me.
I
Yeah.
see you.
You're listening to
Sticky Note Conversations with Erika Washington. Way below acceptable. Way below acceptable.
On this week's episode,
And all I'm thinking is I can't cry. I'm like, I gotta make it home, but I can't cry. So I come in the house, I'm bleeding everywhere. And my mama I'm like, look, mama, and she's like, what happened?
Why were you telling yourself you couldn't cry?
Because my mom didn't allow me to cry.
Below acceptable.
Hey there, Sticky Note listeners. Welcome to a new season of Sticky Note Conversations and Happy Black History Month. I'm your host, creator, and executive producer of Sticky Note Conversations, Erika Washington. I'm so grateful to be here with you as we kick off season 3. There's so much I want to cover and so many conversations I want to have, but I also want to hear from you. What do you want to discuss? And who would you love to hear from? Don't forget to reach out to Sticky Note Conversations at makeitworknevada.org.
It's more real life music. That's all I know. Look. Finally seeing signs of life. Hustling is quicksand when you ain't grinding right. Read the book on it, dropped a couple hooks on it, added verses. Scriptures on the soul of my seen some videos, pictures kept it social.
Today's episode was meant to be light. I asked my friend Alvin Hill, also known as Jackpot, to return and help me kick off the new season with a discussion of pop culture and our predictions of 2026. If you remember, he kicked off our last season. And so we do. We check in some of those boxes and talk a little bit about pop culture, but the direction shifted naturally into feelings, especially crying. And that became the real conversation. Thank you for listening. And I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as we did. Happy 2026, Alvin.
Definitely happy 2026, Erika.
Happy 2026. And this episode of Sticky Note Conversations is the kickoff of the new season of Sticky Note Conversations. And since you kicked off last season, I thought this makes sense. You kick it off again, and here we are to talk about what has passed and what is future and what is current and any predictions for 2026 and goals, resolutions, whatever you may have for this year that you want to speak into existence and that we follow up on at the end of said year to see if you have committed yourself to Black excellence and all of that sort of thing, but also to talk about pop culture and see what's happening in the world and any expectations we have about politics. It is an election year, as well as just the whole political discourse of this moment in the United States, and as well as the absolute comedy of the internet, because there's plenty of that. Because you mentioned in our text message that you mentioned Drewski.
Shout out to Drewski.
Yeah. And so I had seen it already, but I had to go back and rewatch, but I had seen it. And so, yeah, we can talk about that. But yeah, that's all. This episode is meant to just level set for the year and kick us off into the greatness of whatever 2026 is going to bring us.
I love it. And I'm grateful to be here again.
Happy to have you, Jackpot. This is your third appearance, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe, yes. Well, welcome. So since we were talking about Drewski, let's start with Drewski. Let me start by saying I have not been a fan of his, not for any particular reason. His comedy isn't something that sits in my algorithm. He doesn't show up. And I've seen him, and I'd seen some clips, and some of them were pretty stuff that I'm just not interested in finding funny. And so I just don't watch it and don't engage. Less judgment more than it's just probably not for me. So I don't really know a lot about his background, like where he came from or why he's interesting to most people. So if you have information on that, I think we start there and then get into this current skit.
Oh, I'm not a fan either. I just followed him the other day. Yeah, I'm definitely not a fan. My comedy style is not so much to skit people. Even the bigger ones, Country Wayne and guys like that, like my style is not necessarily that. The guys from Detroit, even some of the guys that I know, Jackpot the Juice, a few other guys that I know that do those skits, it's just not really my style of comedy. I'm into a little more intellectual comedy, and I like more stand-up than the skits. And there's only certain people that I really like, even with stand-up, so I don't try to watch everybody. I don't know if you're familiar with Ali Sadiq from YouTube.
No, I know he is.
So I like that type of comedy. I'm a fan of his. It's a little more. He have a
Josh
more.
Johnson is my favorite, I think.
Oh, I'm
I
not.
think Josh Johnson is dope. I'll send you something of his because
Send
his
me
are
it.
long form. It's long form storytelling
Yeah.
that is full of funny pieces, but there's always a central message and a foundation around something more important, a political discourse of some sort.
Yeah, it's people. People tend to feel disrespected when I say the education level matters, and I don't mean as far as degree level, as far as it's just what it is. Like for more intellectual people, we like more intellectual material. We listen to more intellectual rap or more intellectual movies. It's just what it is. We find other things attractive. With Drewski is more, it's like a kid thing to me. But
Yeah.
the church skit was hilarious. I've only seen a couple other skits, to be honest. Bumped into him, and one of them was like him telling, it was like a dude with a BBL or something, like rapping for him, and that was it. I was like, this not funny to me. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, so it was nothing before this to make me even want to pay him attention, but the church skit was hilarious. So I made a little content video about it, a little clip. And the only reason I did that is because I was seeing church people with their panties in a bunch. So I was
So, and there's been a lot of church people with their foundation garments bunched in uncomfortable ways.
yeah.
And so, including the whole dress thing with the other pastor and his wife and the dress that she had on. And I'm the first one to be like, I don't follow a lot of church stuff either. But I'll say this. So Drewski, for me, also, I don't know, the comedy skits I'd seen in the past, very harsh, very like crude in a way that seemed disrespectful also. And so it just wasn't for me. Nothing for me to protest about, just change the channel sort of thing. But I saw it was the Black mega church culture skit. And basically it was him being a parody of a preacher who is asking for tithes and driving a Rolls Royce and, wearing red bottom shoes because he walks in the blood of Jesus. So the Drewski skit to me harkens back to Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul, which I thought was a brilliant movie with Sterling K. Brown. And anything talking about the church is going to get a rise out of somebody, and sometimes a lot of folks. But particularly those two things recently, people don't like for veils to be lifted or lights to be shined upon things that obviously might need some adjusting. No one is saying that church is bad or Black church is wrong or Black church is different than some white churches or whatever, but specifically the culture within the Black church and a lot of these pastors they've been taking advantage of folks, and folks have been following these churches that haven't necessarily given back in the way that they should have. I also think about just a few months ago, there was a woman doing this test on TikTok, and she was calling churches, and she had the sound of a crying baby in the background when she's calling these churches, and she's saying, I just need a can of formula. Can you help me get a can of formula? My child ran out. And she didn't ask for any money. She'd asked for specifically one can of formula. Can I get one can? And so many of these churches that she called said, no, I can't help you. We don't do that. Or some asked, are you a member here? We only help members, da, 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 da. It was over and over and over again. And then people started chiming in and saying, hey, can you call my church? I want to see what they do. And so some people were really disappointed in how their churches responded. And then you had some other folks who were just like, we don't have any, but I can get it to you. Can I meet you somewhere? Or I can go to the Walmart. One man was like, I had a lot of kids and grandkids, but I never was in charge of getting formula. He was like, what flavor does the baby like? Is what he asked. It was so funny because he was ready to go buy that baby some chocolate infamy or something, I guess. He was like, I got a couple dollars in my pocket. Where can I get it to you at? And he was like adamant about doing it right moment. She told him, like, this was a social experiment that I'm doing, and I appreciate how you showed up. And a lot of those churches, and actually it was a mosque that really showed up. It was like, no, we don't, but let me get it for you, and I'll get it for you. That these folks got a influx of donations that came in to them because the internet saw who acted well and who didn't. And then you had some churches push back and was like, oh, this was all just a hoax and you were just trying to hem people up and da 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 da. No, you just mad because you got caught that y'all weren't acting in the, quote unquote Christian way. So I get off my little soapbox to say, Drewski, I think isn't in the same way, is sort of doing that same thing, just shining a light on something in a comedic way that is also high-key a problem.
Most definitely. And I think a hit dog hollers. Right? So if it held no validity, they wouldn't care. It wouldn't matter. The reason that they're mad is because they see it like we see it. If you see the bishop, Bling Bling Bishop, they were calling him, the guy in New York, that the robbery, they came and robbed $1 million in jewelry.
Is that the one that he robbed on camera?
Yeah, the Bling Bling Bishop, Bishop Whitehead. So he was sentenced to 9 years recently because he was robbed. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was robbing elderly church members and telling them to invest their 401ks or whatever else. He did a whole bunch of stuff, and he was just going to buy Bentleys. You know what I mean? So we've seen it. We've seen them say, lock the doors. We've seen it. So what are we?
Which is crazy. Until we reach a certain amount of money, we're going to lock the doors.
We're going to lock the doors.
I'm going to invite everybody over to my house and be like, I'll lock these doors.
I'm locking these doors. Nobody, that's kidnapping. So they're mad, and they're trying to blame the lack of attendance on everything except them not being, we're not our grandparents. And we've watched our grandparents, and some of us, our parents, depend on a church, give the church so much time and money and so much stuff to get nothing in return, to pass, and they still charge for the funeral. They still charge. You didn't pay your tithes for 50 years, and then you pass, and they still want $2,500 to do the funeral or whatever. And you like, dude, the guy up the street said he'd do it for $1,500. How this member that's been committed and doing, so I don't have a problem with the church. In fact, I've had rather decent experiences with the church. I haven't been involved in any church scandals or, I wasn't ran away from the church. I've seen things, but the way I look at everything is exactly how we talked about a little earlier. If it's something positive I can get from it, I take it. I take the positivity. I feel like church is a place of worship, and church is a place to reset your spirit.
It's also meant to be a safe space. It's also meant to be the ultimate safe space. Like, that's definitely where you go, and like, you are supposed to be able to get protection from the outside world inside of that building. But I also think a lot of people mistake church for religion, or church for faith, or a building for faith, and living a certain kind of way whether it's a
Definitely.
Christian way or a spiritual way or whatever that is, however you categorize yourself.
And what some pastors and other church leaders or religious leaders fail to realize is church is a nonprofit organization for a reason. It's because you're supposed to help the community. It's not a nonprofit organization because you're supposed to line your pockets. Right? So you riding around in Bentleys and talking about you need $4 million is a bit crazy. And then you have church leaders who can barely fill up the church that they're in talking about, we're expanding. You don't need to expand. The membership is dropping. What are you expanding for? What you need $4 million for? So I don't like the way that church people feel like what goes on in this house stay in this house still, because it's not that. You have invited cameras into your house, right? Church then turned into a bit of a reality show. When you think about it, it's all of whatever your service is online. When that man said hold them people hostage, even if you wasn't online, you had people in there recording. So it's no longer what goes on in this house stays in this house. Everything is for public consumption. And the church is one place that shouldn't have a problem with that, because you shouldn't have anything to hide.
No, I mean, I think the church is meant to be an open, safe space, but an open space where you're supposed to be able to bring all your things with you. If you actually can come as you are, as the flawed human being that you are, as, wear what you want to wear. But a lot of churches even are frowned upon in that way. Like it becomes like a fashion show or what have you. And I think that was also something that he was highlighting, like how folks dress and show up, and that God will provide for you if you give to him in the church and all of that. But someone was asking for money or something, and he was like, what do I look like? Sort of thing. I won't go too deep into it because it'd be a really long conversation. And also, I have to think more about how I phrase it. You can easily offend somebody when you start talking about religion. And it's never my intent to diss anybody's beliefs. And I think that everyone should have some beliefs of some sort. But to me, a lot of times when I'm hearing someone talk about praying for blessings or talking about being blessed, they're talking about something in a monetary or materialistic space. I saw something recently. Oprah was talking about blessings, and in that she's got all of these blessings and she's so rich because of her steadfast belief in God and her unwavering spiritual beliefs and all that, and hard work and all that too. But because you believe in God and because you are spiritually aligned and what have you, that the Lord will bless you, and the Lord will bless you with a palace basically and owning part of Hawaii and all this different stuff. Like that to me doesn't seem like it has anything to do with blessings. Not even saying she's not a good person, but you worked hard and you were in the right rooms with the right people and you were able to make the right decision, and you can manifest and you can write all this down and you put forth effort and you try. But I think that is so totally separate from God or blessings or what those blessings are, because your blessings should have nothing to do with how many pairs of shoes I have. I don't think that the Lord has blessed me because I have a lot of shoes. And I think that would sound silly to say, but I do think that people are blessed because they are good people, but also good people, bad things happen to. So if you have a situation where something tragic happens and there's a terrible car accident and people pass away and all these different things, was that person less blessed by God? Like they could have went to church every single week and they still die in some tragic way. But to die in an awful and tragic way, we don't say, oh, that person was murdered because God must not have liked them. You don't say that. You don't say it at all. But yet, to me, that's how the premise looks. Like, I lived this long, healthy life because God blessed me. So the person who died early, they weren't blessed. Or person who lost their battle with cancer, quote unquote battle, because I don't necessarily even like that term either, but someone who didn't survive a cancer diagnosis doesn't mean that they were less blessed by God, because also we say, oh, well, they're in a better place. But then you have other people who are like, I'm blessed because I woke up this morning, and some people didn't. So the people who didn't wake up, I thought they're in a better place. So who is better off right now? The person who's in the better place or somebody, but you better than the person who died? I'm better than you because I'm alive and you dead? Make up your mind. Pick a side, stick with it. Like, all of it just makes no sense to me.
No, because as far as that goes, that's just, it lends back to what I was just talking about, just finding something positive even in the negative. So even though it could be a tragic death.
You're listening to
Sticky Note Conversations with Erika Washington.
It was a young lady that she reached out to me via SoundCloud in like 2011. And it was a white lady. It was a younger, well, I was a little younger too, but it was a young white lady. And she made music. When I say she had like a beautiful voice, like she could really sing, like really sing. And I was just asking, why haven't you fully pursued music? And she told me she had a rare condition, and sometimes she wake up in this terrible pain. She can barely get out the bed. It's like extreme muscle spasms. It was all of this stuff. So she and I developed a kind of a really good rapport. And she ended up finding a guy, and it was a black guy, like from the Army. And she was so happy. Like, she was so happy. And she had the best spirit, but she was just telling me, like, sometimes she wakes up in like unbearable pain, and it's nothing she can do about it. And she was basically like, I sing and I have to find something to sing about. She wrote her songs too. And one day I seen a funeral on her page, like on her Facebook page. And at the time I was like moving around a little bit, and I was like, somebody passed. And maybe a year later, I was like, man, I haven't heard from her in like a year. I go on her page, and one of the last posts was her funeral. So what happened was, she had a muscle spasm while driving. She was from up north, but she was driving somewhere down here. It was either Flint or Lansing. And basically she had a muscle spasm and drove her car under a semi-truck and passed. Now, that goes to, what way do I look at it? Oh my gosh, she had a horrible death. Or she in a better place because she's not waking up in those extreme pains that she can't do anything about, right? So it depends on the type of person I am. If I'm the type of person that's a little more down and I'm looking for negative things, or I'm doing this, I was sad. And I've never met her in person. We spoke on the phone a few times, mostly about music. It was never anything romantic or anything. But I was truly sad. And I was more sad about the fact that I didn't even realize it was her funeral on her page. I'd seen it and was like, oh my God, somebody passed. But somebody was like streaming it. It's still on YouTube. Somebody streamed the funeral to her page because it was real sad. And then her song ended up like going viral. It was on blogs and stuff. Like, she really was talented. But it's just all about how you look at it. And I've had times where I looked at death where it was like, oh my God, God didn't do this.
We're all born with the same emotional function, the ability to laugh, cry, get angry, and to love. But somewhere along the way, boys who become men are pushed to leave many of those emotions locked up. And as those boys become men, they continue to believe that boys don't cry. Their society has made it seem like the only acceptable emotion for men is anger. This is especially true for Black men. But how can you heal when all that's expected of you is rage and indifference? And why? It's a natural human emotion that occurs when the body, heart, or mind feels pain or lack. And some people cry because they're frustrated, because they can't put their finger on the reason they're crying, but the body knows something is wrong. And crying can literally make you feel better. It can be a cathartic release of pent-up feelings. And although sometimes crying isn't enough to make us feel better, but it is the start of the emotional unpacking process. Puffy face, runny nose, loud wailing emerging from deep within. And sometimes it's just big, juicy tears quietly streaming down our faces, soaking our collars. Our body is capable of so much, and we as humans are entitled to feel all the feels. Feeling things deeply helps us understand who we are.
My son is 10. He lost his grandmother on Christmas. Cinco lost his grandmother on Christmas. His mom's mom passed, and he was really close with her. He was closer to his grandmother than I was to either one of my grandmothers. And he was so sad, and Cinco said, she just sent me a cash app yesterday. Like, that's all he was thinking about. Like this fast, my grandma gone. And he even repeated that at the funeral. His mama couldn't tell him. I had to tell Cinco his grandma passed. It was like real sad. Think like the day after Christmas, you finding out that your grandma.
Yeah, so talk to me about that as a parent. How have you approached death with your children? Or was this the first time you've had to like really do that?
It's the first time that I've had to do it, but their uncle passed. My fiance's, her younger brother passed while I was in the feds. So my kids were old enough to know him, especially the oldest one, Eli. So Eli was like 8 or 9. So it was a different thing, you know. I wasn't here for that. But for Cinco, I always get on him like, you know, you don't cry, we men, and blah blah blah. But I had to like
you do not.
But I had to give him permission to. I don't mind him crying about something like that. Like, I didn't do that. I do mind him crying about, oh, I fell, or Daddy, they bothering me. I didn't have that luxury growing up to, oh, my big cousin pinched me or something. Like, I didn't have that luxury. So I don't want to hear that. Man up, it ain't gonna hurt any less. Let's keep it moving.
I'm gonna put a pin in that, and we'll come back to that.
Okay, yeah, but
because with this particular situation of did you have to do a lot of explaining like what death was, and did your son have questions about where was she going, or just death in general, of how to accept that the physical body is no longer here?
No, he was in shock and disbelief at first. Because like he said, I just talked to her yesterday, and he was like messed up. He's like really close to his grandmother, and she wasn't the best parent, but as a grandmother, she was a really good grandmother. So he was a little shocked, but once we, kicked it a little bit, and he was okay. And because over here, he's dealing with it on his own. But when he went back with his mom, and he's with his cousins and his other brother and sister, and, everybody going through the same thing, I think he was able to deal with it different. If that makes any type of sense. You know what I'm saying? Over here, it was like, I'm in my own pain. Like, I'm going through my own thing. Nobody over here really feels what I'm going through, because it's not my mom. When he went back with his mom, it's his mom. It's her mom. He's over there with the other grandkids, and they're all over there, cooking. The family is there. You get all of the sadness. And he was here for maybe 4 or 5 days before he went over there. So over there is probably a different feeling, because over here, it was more so like life goes on for us, because it wasn't necessarily our loss. So I think reality might have slapped him in the face once he went back to his mom's house, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. And so does he feel like he can talk to you about how that feels to be in the midst of it over there?
Yeah, we have a pretty good relationship, pretty open relationship. And he did, once he went over there, he felt like he had to be there, if that makes sense. Like once he went over there, he felt like, Dad, I'm gonna deal with this over here, then I come back, because it was still Christmas break, and he was like, I'm gonna be over here. So even after the funeral was on a Friday, and he usually always with me, over the weekends, and
Did
he
you
was,
go?
yeah, I went to the funeral. Yeah, I went to the
Mhm.
funeral. His grandmother and I, we've had issue, but we haven't had issue in like 10 years, so we actually got along. So yeah, we
Mhm.
were decent.
Well, regardless, even if you didn't, for him,
I definitely was
to
going
be
anyway.
there, yeah.
My
But to
lady
come
went with
back,
me. She was sad.
hmm
She was
well, I
sad
mean,
because she's done her hair. Like they were cool. Yeah.
hmm
So the grandmother was cool. She wasn't even like really old. She was only 56.
mm,
Yeah. So
yeah, no, that's not
yeah.
old at all.
No. So she was cool. Like we had a pretty good relationship. Like I said,
Hmm
it was a little hairy at first because I was in a relationship with my ex and my lady for 3 years.
Right.
So
Well, when you blend families, though, that a part of that blending of families includes the extended parts of those families. Because if you love the child that came from that previous relationship, then you are then somewhat intertwined with their people, whether it's the mom or
mhm.
the aunt or the cousin or what have you, or the other kids that come from a different segment of that
Yeah.
tree.
Mhm.
um it makes us all really intertwined, and so it makes it a community that people need to really think about. I think that when you are stepping into a relationship with folks who have family of any sort, but especially when there's children involved, that you have to open up a little bit more of your mindset on
You
what family is.
most definitely ain't like being that I'm a writer or artist. I take in certain things from different people. Just like my ex's stepdad, he's a white guy. His name is Brian, and he was like a motorcycle skinhead, tattoos in his head, white guy. Yeah, it's crazy. So Cinco's grandmother was full Puerto Rican, the one that just passed. His mom is black and Puerto Rican. So this guy Brian was like one of the big guys in a motorcycle club, and they can be a bit racist, and they have they own thing going on. But I speak to Brian, and I used to talk to Brian like regularly. Like I would sit and actually kick it with Brian, and Brian is a white guy that say nigga. I'm just being honest with you, right? So I don't necessarily give anybody a pass for that or whatever, but I was telling my fiance about it. Cinco had, I'm about to go there. So Cinco had, I'm going to tell you. So look, it's crazy.
I
I
can't
know
get my
it's
face
crazy.
together. Sorry.
Listen. So it's crazy,
Brian.
right? Lily, which is my fiance, she's never met Brian. Um, but we've dropped Cinco off over there, different things, but she had never met Brian at this time. And I was like, it was a grandparents' day at the school. And Cinco grandmama couldn't make it. My mom lived in Grand Rapids. Lily mom, we always had issues with her. So I called Brian. And I got Brian on speakerphone. I'm like, Brian, you think you can make it up to Cinco school tomorrow for grandparents' day? And or maybe his mom was here and she called him and we was on speaker. But whatever it was, we asked him could he make it to the school. And he said, yeah, I can make it, Alvin. He said, but do you think they gonna kick me out when they hear me say nigga?
Why do you feel the need to say it at the school in the first place?
No, he says it in general conversation. This is what I'm about to go there. Like it's literally like I'm telling you, he says it in general conversation.
I understand. Many people talk in general conversation. They say it more often than I even need them to say it, but they just, it's part of their vernacular. But there is something about Black folks knowing how to code switch at any given time. And even the most hood Black people know how to code switch some. But it sounds like he don't feel the need to code switch because you're a white man. So I don't code switch. I just say what I say.
He just say it, right? And
he would have to stay home.
Yeah, he definitely had to. I said when he said it, but it was funny because Lily was sitting there and he was on speakerphone, but I had already told her that he just like, if you talk to him, because I was like giving her a warning, like he like talk. So anyway, he couldn't stand the grandmother, which is his kid's mother. But he always dealt with the kids, which is Cinco mom and her sisters and brothers. Now, he has one kid by her, which is Cinco's aunt. So this is a white and Puerto Rican kid. When all of her kids got up there were Puerto Rican kids, black kids, white kids. I'm telling you, the mom was in the streets and all of that. So she died young because she had a rough life. Now, he couldn't stand her, but he was at that funeral crying like a baby. And he told me, he said they just made amends like 6 months ago. And she came over and she cooked for him and his wife. He'd been with the same lady for like 25 years. But he also raised one of the kids. I didn't know that the other kid wasn't his. So the girl who taxes I did today, and they have a brother that's like a year and a half younger than her, which is the baby brother. The baby brother's name is Manny. I was talking to Brian. Like I said, I have these conversations with Brian, even though we come from different backgrounds. I learn a lot. So I talked to Brian, and Brian explained to me that Manny is not his kid. I don't know this. At the time, Manny might have been 16. Kayla might have been 17, maybe something like that. Maybe she was 16, he was 14 or 15. Whatever it was, he tell me this just like this. He said, look at that little boy. That little boy is Mexican. His name is Manny because he named after his daddy, whoever his daddy is. He said, but his mom was on drugs. I couldn't take my daughter and not take him. So I raised Manny like he my son. Right? And Manny called him dad. He don't know no other dad. Mm-hmm. But Brian is white. Manny is clearly Mexican. If you see him, he's as Mexican as you go get, right? And the mom is Puerto Rican. So, was Puerto Rican. But I only brung that up to say that, do I judge him off of him saying the N-word, or do I judge him off of him raising a kid that he know ain't his, him being a stepdad to these other kids that they were born when he came around, but he raised them, he helped raise them, and now he's a grandfather to Cinco and the other grandkids, right? So I've never, when he say it, it's not like nails screeching on a chalkboard to me, where some people it is. It's just that everything's not black and white, like you know what I'm saying, with me. So whatever the situation is, whether it's religion, politics, I'm not looking at, oh, they Republican, they bad. Oh, they Democrat, they good, or vice versa. I consider myself to be an independent. Character is everything, right? And you could be my brother, and when I see that it's bad character, I'm like, this is not good. You know what I'm saying? Let's create some space. So when I talk about the grandmother with Cinco, I don't have anything bad to say. We've had a couple head bumps, and it's been some things that, some things that transpired that we actually came to a pretty good understanding about everything.
So going back to the beginning when you said that you allowed him to cry in this moment, I kind of want to unpack that just a little bit, because you said something to the effect of you didn't have those luxuries growing up to be able to cry about your cousin bothering you or whatever.
Yeah, we couldn't. Okay, so I couldn't. Let's say something happened. Okay, I was like 7. I fell on an open bottle and I cut my hand. I always tell this story. I don't know if I've said it on here before, but I fell on an open bottle, like the bottom of a bottle. You know how it's like, so it was like rigid. So I had a whole cut in my palm and it was bleeding. It was like a circle. It was like a circle in my palm and it was bleeding. And it was bleeding pretty bad because I fell on a bottle. I ran home. I'm bleeding. I'm talking about it's like blood just gushing out my hand. I remember this so vividly. And I was just running home. And my mom was a tomboy. My mom was like rough. Me and my brother was like real rough. So I'm running home and all I'm thinking is, I can't cry. I can't cry. Like I'm bleeding. I'm really thinking I might not make it. You know what I'm saying? I'm bleeding like a stuck hog. And all I'm thinking is I can't cry. I'm like, I gotta make it home, but I can't cry. So I come in the house, I'm bleeding everywhere. And my mama like, I'm like, look, mama, and she's like, what happened? And I'm explaining to her what happened. And I said, mama, I didn't cry. I remember this. I had to go get.
Why were you telling yourself you couldn't cry?
Because my mom didn't allow me to cry. Like my mom was really rough. And it's not that my mom was like a tomboy, and my mom was rough. Well, she is. She's not past. She's still here. My mom like grew up rough. Like my mom was tough. So the boys in our family were like boys. My mom had 4 brothers. My uncles were street dudes, right? I got one uncle that's still alive. My uncle Bud is, he like a computer network or a computer engineer or whatever. He's the only one that's still alive. But my mama, the boys that she were around were like rough. So, and my mom, like she lost a brother when she was like 23, 24. He was 19. Well, she was 21. He was 19. You know what I'm saying? My mom had it rough. And even my dad was rough. So I don't know, maybe my mom thought that that's just the thing to do. So I didn't have that luxury. I didn't, and
that makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't realize it. So I ran across a guy I grew up with when I was in prison. I was on my way home. So I'm like 25 at the time. And when I bumped into him, he was like, I got a pretty big family as far as Ben Harbor is concerned, because my mom had 6 sisters and 4 brothers. Ben Harbor is only 10,000 people. There is only one high school. So, anybody that's around their age, it's pretty familiar. So he was like, you a good low? I'm like, yeah. And he like, who your mama? I'm like, Sandy. And the guy looked at me, he said, man, you little man or Gleek? I said, I'm little man. And anyway, he just looked at me like, he said, I just cut my braids a few weeks ago. And so man and I, we kicked it all the time. And man told me one day, he said, man, you and Gleek was rough. I'm like, what you mean rough? He said, I used to tell people about you in the joint. I'm like, what you mean? I don't think nothing of it, because me and my brother so rough, we literally, it's like training in the house every day. Me and my brother fight, and we fight like cats and dogs. Like I might hit my brother with a bottle if it's close to me. Like me and my brother just always fought. We 11 months apart. We always had to share a room. We always had to share clothes, share a TV, share a video game. Like we fought like all the time. And he tell me this. He said, man, you and your brother was like a different type of aggressive. And I didn't get it, but now I'm 25 years old and I'm just reflecting on everything. And I asked him, I said, nah, because it was guys that we looked up to that we thought were like tough guys. And he was like, no, y'all were different. Because he telling me like, no, I watched those guys grow up too. You know what I'm saying? He like, no, I watched them grow up. He said, you and your brother was different. And the way he explained it was like, y'all just had a chip on y'all's shoulder. It just was different. Even though I'm 40, like people talk about me and my brother. And as I was running across people in a joint, they would say stuff like, man, I'm just glad you grew up. Man, I'm just glad you grew up. Like, I wouldn't even think this you, or I wouldn't, I calmed down and things got that. And I try not to glorify it. But when I sit and think about it and unpack some things, my mama really messed us up. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because my mama didn't break up the fights. My mama didn't. It was literally like, handle y'all business. Like, what I'm saying?
So let me ask you this, because then I think that all of us can reflect in certain ways of parents. Our parents only knowing what they know and only doing the best that they think that they know how to do, or whatever tools that they have. And as you said, you think that maybe she thought that was the best way to be and to tell you all not to cry. And also that you feel like she, in certain ways, probably messed y'all up a little bit. But knowing that now, and knowing that life can be different, and that you are raising your children different, and your children are not having the experience that you had at all. Like they're having a much different experience, and you are very intentional about the experience that you are giving your children now. Where is that room for your son to have emotions about even what might be frivolous, not about someone dying, but about somebody, your feelings being hurt or them falling down or what have you, and crying, and being able to use that and feel all of those emotions and then be able to move past them in a great way that they know how to cope and realize next time maybe I may not cry about that, or I might be somebody who cries because my emotions sit at the surface of who I am, not being a man or a woman or identified in any sort of way, but as a human being. Like some people's emotions float a little higher at the surface than others because your son is not you also. So not just because of the different lived experience, but because also he's only part of your DNA. So he's pulling in a lot of different things. And so it may show up differently for him. And your daughter the same way. Your daughter might end up being a crier or not a crier or what have you, but giving them that same opportunity to feel those things because you didn't have an opportunity to feel those things and sit in those feelings and pull yourself out of them.
I give them room to be emotional, and some people don't even agree with this, but even like when they mad, I hear them cussing and everything. I give them room to be emotional. I just have a thing with crying. I don't know, and it's probably just some stuff that, some deep-rooted stuff. But so he fell, maybe last summer, he scraped himself kind of bad. He was like popping a willy. My son like a daredevil, Cinco like a daredevil, and he was like popping a willy and like the chain popped or something. Something happened and he scraped himself. And he came in, it was like a pretty deep little gash. And he came in and he was like, Dad, he was crying, Dad. I said, you got to stop crying. I said, it don't hurt no less. I'm not telling you to stop crying like you soft. When it's an emotional reaction, I get it. But I'm telling and I literally told him, I said, Cinco, it don't hurt no less. You crying don't make it hurt no less. You panicking.
Or maybe it does.
No. You're panicking and it just make a situation worse because when he came in, I thought he got shot or something. Like the way he came in was like super scary. And I'm like, bro, you tripping. Like, it's cool. We gonna put a Band-Aid on it. We gonna treat it, put a Band-Aid on it, Neosporin it up, and he was back on his bike. I had to fix the chain.
I mean, you still might get back up, but the crying spell still might be necessary. It still doesn't mean that you ain't gonna get back up and get back on it, but there still is space. I just think that one thing with parenting, like we can't do is we can't give them their emotions. So saying something that it won't hurt any less because you're crying, or it won't heal something, maybe not for you.
Yeah.
But maybe for him it does. Because sometimes the crying is cathartic for some people. And I say that as somebody who was raised 3 very unique people with they all have been given the same DNA, but yet it mixed up in different ways. So they look a little different, they act a little different, but they come from the same folk, but yet they are very different from each other. And they are very different from me. And having to raise children with different personalities and different responses to things, a parent is required to be able to turn off and turn on different parts of their brain at different times, because how one kid reacts to something is not how the other one, and you can't punish them the same because the punishments don't work the same, because some people like kid may not even care, take all my stuff, I don't, whatever, like it ain't hurting them in no kind of way. I tell the story all the time. My oldest she loved wearing dresses when she was little. Kindergarten, all that, she loved wearing a dress. She wore a uniform to school. She always wanted to wear the dress. They had pants, she didn't want to wear them. And so she was acting a fool at school. I don't even remember what she was doing. I don't remember what it was she did. But I was like, you know what? You want to act like that? You got to wear pants all the rest of the week. You're wearing pants to school. The way that you would have thought I scarred her for life. What do you mean I have to wear pants? You have to wear pants because you don't know how to act. Wear pants. And so she was like, I don't want to look like a boy, dressed like a boy. And she was mad. Oh, she was mad. And so, but it worked, because whatever it is she did that I don't even remember now, she didn't do it no more, because she understood the consequence. And the thing, I took something away from her that she really felt was her thing. I wear dresses to school every day. I wear this little jumper. I love it. This is me. And I remind her that story every now and again. And she's like, they were really cute jumpers, Mom. So like, it was cute. So, but every time, but she wears pants all the time now. Like she wears pants more than anything. But it was just what satisfied her. Now that thing wouldn't have worked for my second one. Like, whatever. Care what you're about to put on me. Wear what I want. And so I think it's the same way with emotions. Their emotions show up differently. My oldest, she was a crier and I didn't know why she would be crying, and she would be on her report card. She's a little bit of a crybaby in class. Like, that's just, she's sensitive. She still is. She is a sensitive soul. I just have to be like, okay, honey. But when she gets it out, like, she got her college degree and all that, she still cries. Just be crying for whatever reason she's crying for. And I'll just be like, okay, honey. And I deal with it and I do what I can because I'm not a crier. Mm-hmm. And my youngest is very sensitive in that way. The oldest and the youngest are really similar. My middle one, whatever, like just gangster, until she needed to cry. And then when she cried, like the whole world sort of breaks open because it's just like a thing. Because she holds it all in. But I say all that to say is that we're also different. And that the thing that that I've learned as now that my children are all no longer considered children is that we have to work really hard as parents not to put our shit on them, not to put our upbringing on them, and not to put in the way that we were raised or any of that on them. Even when we're doing better than what our parents did for us, because I know that you are. I also feel as though I did a better job, but I did a better job at raising me, is what it is. Mm-hmm. My mother didn't raise my children, and so my children don't know what that life was. Mm-hmm. They got very small bits and pieces because I'd never really talked about it much, but they're not being raised in that way. So they also have no room to be grateful that they weren't raised that way because they don't know what that is. No, mm-hmm. And so their floor is my ceiling. So I look at it as I'm doing all these great things that I never got, but they're like, that's regular for them. So the stuff I didn't do for them that I didn't even think about doing because I'm over here trying to make up for basic ass stuff from the 80s, that they're just like, okay, girl, what about this? Like, you weren't here for this. You didn't do this. You was always working, whatever their laundry list of complaints are. It's always going to be something that they're going to feel like they did not get. But one thing we can give them is the luxury not to have to relive our childhood or put unnecessary burdens on them in that way.
Oh, I definitely agree, but they don't need to cry. Well, my girl can cry. Yeah, I'm just saying.
But who wants a man that can't cry?
He can express himself. I'm not saying don't express yourself.
But why can't you express yourself with tears too?
Yeah, we're not going to do that. My kids definitely, they express themselves and they tell me when they mad and different stuff. They pretty good at that. And the crying, they got a lot better with the crying. They know I don't want to see that. Keep the waterworks.
But just because you don't want to see it, that to me, that sounds more like not because they don't want to cry, but they're not going to do it to please you.
That's okay.
And is that okay?
Yes, and it forces you to express yourself a little better than just crying. I don't know. Crying just make me think everything is a 10. If I hear my kids crying, I'm automatically.
But a crying don't have to be. But a crying is not a 10 for everybody. It's a 10 for you, but it may not be a 10 for them. It might be a 6. And like a 10 could be destructive behavior, like breaking stuff or whatever.
Yeah, my youngest son was like beating his video games up and stuff. I probably was better with that than crying. I'm just being honest.
You're better with violence than you are with crying?
Yes, I'm more comfortable with that. Yes, I'm more comfortable with that. So I'm gonna even tell you just exactly what you said. I'm a little more comfortable with a different type of expression. So my 2 kids, they only 6 months apart, Cinco and Yaya. So when they were like just starting to walk and stuff, you bump into stuff happens. And these 2 will bump into stuff, be playing, running, trip over something, and I start showing them to just beat it up. Right? Instead of crying, this is what I'm showing the kids. So if you bump your foot on the bed, don't cry, just beat the bed up. You know what I'm saying? Like, take it out. You know what I mean? I was teaching them this. And I did this over the course of maybe 2, 3, 4 months, whatever it was. We were at a kid's birthday party somewhere. And Yaya must have hit the table or something, like bumped the table. Something happened. And she turned around and started beating the hell out that table. And the people in the room was just looking like, what the hell? Because she was like going to town on the table. And they were just looking like, what the hell? And I was like, look, she didn't cry. It hurt. It hurt. Whatever she bumped that table. and she beat the hell out that table, and it looked like it looked like that little girl lost her mind. It was like, what is she doing? She was beating the hell out that table. They was just looking like, what the hell? And I was like, I told her, if you bump a toe or you hit a knee, just beat the table up. If you hit the bed, beat the bed up. Just get it out. And they wouldn't cry. She looked at me and she was like, basically like, you see me, Daddy? I was like, yep. But she was okay.
She was okay. And I get, like, we all cuss out inanimate objects when we hit them. We stub our toe on the bed, and that bed is the worst thing in the world, and that bed could get burned. I understand that. A stub of the toe feels worse, I think, than other pain that actually you expect pain from. But your baby toe, you're just like, death is upon you. I get it. Now, I will say, though, that, and I'm not saying that there aren't other ways in which to release frustration. I did tell my kids, go scream in the pillow, go, if you need to hit the pillow or what have you, because also I didn't want them taking out frustrations on each other, especially when hormones start really getting moving and raised up in a house full of women. Like, there's just a lot going on, and you got a bad attitude. You got to find somewhere to readjust your attitude. So write it, scream in a pillow, whatever. But also still, tears are okay. Like, something hurt you. It hurt, and it's okay. And it's not about making you happy, because that will cause repression, I think. I feel like that will cause some sort of repression. It's like, my dad didn't want me to cry. He didn't want to see me crying, so I'm not going to cry. Now I don't have the space to cry when I want to cry because I feel like I'm going to be a disappointment.
Yeah, you can, it's times for it. Anytime,
there's always time for feelings. And there's always times in which to adjust. And there's always time for crying. You need to cry, I think. And it's the same coming from somebody who is not a big crier. I'm really not a big crier. But it's not because I feel like somebody told me I can't cry. Like, my grandfather probably said a few times, stop all that crying or whatever. But, I don't think that did anything to me in a sense that felt like I couldn't. I'm a private crier. I'm not somebody who wants to do it necessarily in public. There are spaces for that for me. And I am a person who mourns and is sad in private and not in public, because I also think it's nobody else's business. And that could be repression, that could be whatever too. But I'm still okay with doing it. And I never wanted my kids to think that they weren't okay with doing it, that I wasn't okay with them crying, Because you got to learn how to calm yourself down, too, and come up with some coping mechanisms that work. I don't know about, tearing a table apart, but I think that there are ways in which to cope. So just thinking about how we come up with better ways to do that.
They can write a song. All right.
I think we end on that note. Just soon to be Dr. Jackpot.
I got 3 to 5 years. Don't do me like that.
What? You can still be the soon to be. You are engaged to the program.
Yeah.
So it shall happen, and you have spoken into existence that you will be Dr. Jackpot.
Definitely.
You put that on your diploma.
That is funny.
Dr. Jackpot. And so that just means more greatness and possibly a little more debt to you, but you will it will all pay off in the end. Anyway, Jackpot. Alvin, thank you so much for your time today on Sticky Note Conversations. I always look forward to talking to you and learning something new about you, because there's always something else. There's always something else. You stay moving. You stay moving. And I think that in and of itself is an inspiration, that you do stay moving, and that you're not and never have been a victim of said circumstance, and that you're continuing to learn and grow, as we all need to, in order to be whatever it is that we want to be when we're actually grown up, and we're whatever grown up is. Because like I said, some days I feel like a grown up, and other days I feel less like a grown up. Buying a new furnace, I will be a full-fledged adult very soon. But thank you for being here.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Always. All right, y'all. That's Sticky Note Conversations. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Sticky Note Conversations with Erika Washington. Hosted and executively produced by Erika Washington. With editing by Black Gypsy LLC. Special thanks to KUNV 91.5 in Las Vegas. This show is powered by Make It Work Nevada, a project of Tides Advocacy.